Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the all-new ThyGap podcast. On a new Thursday comes a new episode. This is me being Brute, and with me is...
Bogus Noog.
Hey, Bogus, what is up?
What is up, Brood, is our socials because our listeners can follow us on Twitter at,
ThyGap,
on Vero at,
ThyGap,
on Instagram
@ ThyGap,
and our email is
mindthygap@gmail.com.
fantastic.
Great, that's the fastest we ever went into socials.
Yep.
But Bogus, today is a very encouraging day
Mm-hmm.
because it's a happy Thursday.
Yes.
Because every Thursday is a new ThyGap English episode that comes out.
Yeah, just feel different every Thursday. Check out our trailer.
Yeah. You get up in the morning on a Thursday and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
Thursday. And to be honest, Bogus, we've been doing this relatively consistently, except for the last few weeks where we were putting up a episode every Thursday, right?
Yeah. I mean, overall, we've been shockingly consistent.
For our range of discipline, I think we've done 300%.
For the level of expectation we had from ourselves,
Yes.
I think we have overperformed, Brood.
Right. And
We are into our 90s.
90s, man.
Yeah,
90s.
nervous
You know how many
90s.
Thursdays that are?
Yeah.
90s. And we started it off, I think, on a Monday or something. But any which ways, in all the 90 episodes we have put up, the most common and most appreciated template, it's not easy.
Yep.
It's a personal favorite of both the hosts.
It's a grand success.
It's a grand success of the host declaring it a grand success. Like Karan Johar's movies, how he declares their hit.
Yeah.
Today's topic for this new episode of It's Not Easy is what has been driving us to put an episode every week for the last 90 odd weeks. And that is,
Conviction.
wow. Can you repeat that once again, Bogus?
Conviction.
Wow. The decrease in the value of the word on the follow-up was mind-blowing. Conviction, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, a ThyGap special because it's something that we all need on a day-to-day basis.
Without which, there would be no ThyGap podcast, bro. There would be no ThyGap Telugu podcast.
There would be no ThyGap upcoming podcasts.
There wouldn't be this recording session.
Nothing of this sort.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been even the T in the ThyGap. It would
Yeah.
just be in high gap.
Yes.
But once again, see, we all need this. We all need conviction to do anything, to move forward in life. But often we don't have it.
Yeah.
In fact, seldom we have it.
Okay. It's the flip around the same
Yes.
thing, but yes.
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 That's how we make a 2-mark answer into 10 marks answer. But why is it not easy, Bogus? Why is conviction not easy? Why did we even choose this topic? Are we wasting our listeners' time or do we genuinely have something to share?
No, I don't think we're wasting anyone's time. Because
In fact, they are wasting our time by not,
Yeah.
donating anything, making us do it for free.
Yeah, because we're not wasting the time because immediately we go into like, what is the context?
Yeah.
Like, what do we mean by conviction?
It is when you steal an eraser from your benchmate
Right.
and you're, put into trial by the class teacher.
Yep.
And they prove that you have actually stolen that eraser. That's when it's called you're convicted.
And
Which is
they
not
send
what
you out
you're-
of the class.
They send you out of the class, kick you out of the class. They
Yep.
don't even send, they kick you out of the class.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the conviction that we are talking about.
That's not the kind of conviction.
Yeah, that's
no.
not the kind of conviction we're talking about. Please don't think of it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Conviction is fundamentally, in layman terms, Bogus trying to make this a conversation.
Right.
If I have an idea, right, or if I have an outlook,
A belief.
a belief,
Right.
a perception,
Yeah.
and if I have made that as my reality, that is conviction.
Yeah. Or we can also say if we really strongly believe in it and we are willing to stand behind our ideas and we're willing to walk the talk when it comes to these beliefs, then we can say that we have conviction.
Correct. And that you can say, I don't say it.
Yeah.
But
You
yes,
say it in
both.
the other way.
Yeah, I say it in the other way.
Right.
Which is, anything that we perceive as our reality is what is our conviction.
Okay.
That's the context. That's what we mean when we say conviction, Bogus.
Yep.
I think we are on the same page, but on two different sides.
We're in the same chapter.
Same chapter, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bogus, let's get in deeper into why it's not easy.
Why is conviction not easy
Yeah.
today?
why are we doing why it's not easy? Because that's the name of the template,
Yep.
right? Now, do you have any takes of why it's not easy? Why conviction is not easy?
I
to
do.
have conviction.
I do.
Do you think it's a good time to say about talk about it?
I don't know. You're just asking if I had any. Like, you're running this episode
typical
basically,
legal
bro.
answer.
You just
This is how advocates answer.
yeah.
Let me rephrase that, Bogus. Bogus, tell us why it's not easy to have conviction.
The first reason I can think of, bro, is the low-hanging fruit sort of, which we can all guess. Peer pressure. It's
Okay, interesting.
it's all pervasive these days.
Don't use heavy words.
No escaping. And FOMO. Yeah, I mean, that's the after effect, right?
Yeah.
Like of peer pressure.
Oh shit, I'm not convinced like he does about Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, there seems to be something so like he seems to be so convinced by it. It must be true.
Yeah, it is true.
All of these people are saying something in unison,
Yeah,
so it must be true.
yeah,
All of them indicate that I'll lose my job if I don't agree with them, so it must be true.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. What I hear from you is like today you're having conviction not because of your own ideas, but because of adopted ideology,
Yeah.
which is a dangerous thing, to be honest.
Adopted ideology,
This is how sheep mentality grows.
herd mentality, sheep mentality.
Yeah, why couldn't you just say he's sheep? Why you had to use herd?
You know, it's a herd of sheep, so
Shut up, Bogus.
you're just not
shut up.
you lack conviction, bro, with your metaphors.
Yeah, whatever.
But what I meant to say was,
Mob mentality.
no, mob is, that's a totally different thing. It's partly what you said, which is, trying to remember what you said. Is that what you said?
I said that adopted ideologies. Today we have
Right.
convictions not because of our own ideas or values, but they're moreover like adopted. Like, why is Federer greater than Nadal? Because everybody says Federer is greater than Nadal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then there is a wave which comes that Nadal starts winning more than Federer and everybody says Nadal.
Yeah.
So immediately you're like, oh no, Nadal is greater than Federer.
Yeah.
So I feel that dilly-dally of convictions, or I mean, we are using a very bad example to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel that we are today making our own convictions out of adopted ideology.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one part of it. You know, adopted ideologies.
Yeah.
Of course, peer pressure, FOMO, and all comes into that.
Yeah.
The other part of it is there's an immediate fear of consequence. Like, okay, I'm going to be convinced about point A
Yeah.
because I get vibes from my social circle that I'll be deleted off the WhatsApp group or something.
Oh God.
Yeah, the end of the world.
Dream of every man.
So the fear of consequence.
Yeah.
So it is all of these external things. It is all of these things except for the main, or what should be the primary reason is, are we, like checking, or are we cross-verifying if these beliefs match up with our own ideals? Do we have personal standards to begin with, which we compare these ideals against and then decide, yes, this idea is matching up to my standards or my ideals. And that is what is increasing or raising my level of conviction
Right.
in this particular idea. It is almost never inward out. Again, it is always outward in.
Yeah.
It's always, the FOMO, peer pressure, like you said, adopted ideology, which is, it's pretty much like everyone's
It's a
catching
disease.
a cold around you. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was going to say. Like catching a cold around you,
Yeah.
you also just do it because
Yeah.
there's nothing else you can do. And
Because that's cool. That's
Yeah.
woke.
yeah, and you don't stand out, like
Yeah.
nobody can see you separate from the pack. But not because, is it something that matches with my?
There is no introspection into it, right? There's no deep diving into these things.
And there is no personal standards also.
And also, which is where my point of why it's not easy comes, is there is no hard work to have a conviction.
Yeah.
Who's going to ask you to prove it nowadays?
You can just virtue signal.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You kind of like, I don't know, you piggyback on it, you proxy on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I feel...
The Amazon rainforest, bro. Bro, all the plastic you use disgusts me because of the Amazon rainforest, bro.
Yeah, fuck you, bogus.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Gir Forest. Okay. Closer to me. But, okay, my point of why it's not easy with conviction, and I'm going to discount all this. Okay. I'm coming from a point of just technically understanding conviction.
Okay.
Right? What makes it very tricky to get a grasp of. my belief is that the very tricky part about conviction is it needs constant proof to be in the form of conviction. Whether it be for yourself or someone else. Right? Like if I have to be convinced about, say, an ideology of mine or a capability of mine, then I have to, one, prove it to myself that yes, it is true, you do have a skill or a capability. And two, I also have to prove it enough that somebody else can see it and also validate that conviction of mine.
The caveat being that this is you going the right way about it and not the wrong way about it,
Correct.
which is adopted ideology.
Yeah, this is
blah,
like,
blah, 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 blah.
correct. No.
This is the right way of
Right.
going
This
about it.
is like a thought out process.
So what you're talking about actually is why it's not easy, even if you go the right way about it.
Yeah, even if you go the right way.
Go ahead.
It's very difficult, right? And one of the reasons is a lot of conviction is not conviction until proven because the conviction is derived out of a hypothesis that it can be.
Yeah.
It might be.
Right.
Like for instance, I think one of the biggest example we both can collaboratively speak about is ThyGap.
ThyGap, yes.
Obviously, we think ThyGap is the world's best ever.
Yep.
Right? Without doubt. There's no competition. But
That's our conviction.
That's our conviction.
Yeah.
Right? And the statement that ThyGap is the best ever podcast is a hypothesis.
Right.
Now you and me have to sit and figure out a theorem that will finally say hence proved.
Right.
Now that can come if we have like 100 million followers. That can come if we are the most spoken about podcast, or if there's a rating chart, like we are in the number one for the longest time or whatever.
Right.
There might be different metrics.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Or if two random people from any part of the world
just
write
give us
to
20 crores.
I mean, yes.
20 crores each.
20 crores each. But then also two other random people, just write to us saying, what you guys talked about clarified things, that were muddled for me.
Yeah.
And it really helped me in my life. Like it changed the direction of my life.
Yeah.
That also is a huge metric.
Absolutely. And that message or mail can start with like, I came in for some laughs because that's what it is. ThyGap was supposed
You said
to
it
be
was a comedy podcast.
Yeah, comedy podcast. But you changed my life.
Yeah.
Laughter is really the true medicine.
Yeah.
Laughter is the best medicine. But that's my take. Like why it's not easy even.
And here's 20 crores.
20 crores. Yeah. Obviously, that should be the
Otherwise,
sign off.
those letters, they don't pay anything.
We don't open them. Like if the subject line is not here is 20 crores, we are not opening them.
Sorry.
That's why we get frauded a lot. Like we open every mail that says you just won $10 million, and we're like, wow, this is it.
Yeah.
But enough of the serious stuff. Let's go back to comedy.
Yep.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning, bogus.
Yep.
Let's start working.
Let's get funny about this.
Yeah, let's get funny about this.
Yeah.
I think that should be one of our shows. Like, let's get funny about this and speak about politics and
depression,
cancer in children, stuff like that. But anyways, long story short. So that's the tricky part, because you can make anything into a hypothesis.
Yeah.
And imagine building an energy source on the foundation of hypothesis and trying to make it real.
Yeah.
And this is the right way, right? It's the way you have to grind it out.
Yep.
And it is so complex. It is unknown territory for most of us.
Yeah.
There is no blueprint for this.
Yeah.
And there is a very high chance that your hypothesis constantly keeps changing, and that is where your point comes in, where it can be influenced, it can be penetrated, it can be adulterated.
Yeah.
So that is what makes it so difficult, and that is what doesn't make it easy.
Yeah, and the ThyGap hypothesis is something that anyone who's trying to do something on their own can relate with.
Yeah.
Which is, to take the ThyGap example, this is a hypothesis we have today that between the two of us, we understand the potential it has because of the plans that we have laid out and because of how sensible they are to us, blah, 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 all that. But apart from like outside the two of us, that hypothesis doesn't exist. Nobody cares, nobody gives a fuck until there is proof.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as long as
it's the most thought out I've ever said.
Yeah. It was a pregnant
it was like I guess maybe not sure yet.
Until we can prove it ourselves to others so that they can also be convinced, they will never have any conviction on this.
Right.
We have to carry the conviction, sourcing it from hypothesis, not even from proof, because we don't have proof ourselves.
So,
We
okay.
are working towards that.
Right. So, if you have to draw out the map from hypothesis to conviction,
Yeah.
right? And there are multiple stages.
Yeah.
I think after 90 odd episodes, we are at a stage that we are convinced. Our conviction is relatively higher. And that is what matters. Your conviction should be higher than what it was yesterday. It's like, that whole improvement theory where you have to be better than what you were yesterday by a little bit kinds. And conviction behaves in the same way.
Yeah, but I also don't believe in it like automatically it needs to happen like that. There has to be a reason for your conviction to be stronger.
Proof. Proof. Yeah.
If your plans were right, if you made the plans in the right direction,
Yeah.
if you strategized in the right way,
Which we never did, by the way. That's not. That's all for humans.
let's get back to comedy.
Yeah.
If you strategized in the right way, then you'll see that things are bearing fruit. Like the few plans that you had in the beginning,
Yeah.
you saw small returns for that.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of your project would understand it.
Yeah.
It's only you and your group that will understand.
People involved.
And you have those small signs, right? Those become like the small validation, sources of validation for you that, okay, we are on track. And that's
Correct.
why my conviction will increase with every day, because I'm seeing small evidences. It is still not big enough for the rest of the world,
Yeah.
but it's good enough for me. It's good enough for my partner. And, it's
By partner, bogus means Jeff Bezos.
exactly. And you were mentioning earlier, Brute, about, people quitting, people leaving things
Yeah.
that they embarked on. It's a very real and, inevitable situation for anyone who is starting out with limited resources
Yeah.
like ourselves. And also,
We literally, ran it out of a bus stop.
yeah,
I mean, someday there will be a movie made by us about how ThyGap came up.
and always
Came
after
by.
midnight.
Yes. Always after midnight.
Yeah.
Went all the way till the wee morning.
We
Tough
looked,
times.
we looked hard. We searched hard for a place that actually had a street lamp nearby
Yes.
that was working.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, we look forward. We already lived through the tough times even before we went through them. Just by visualization.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is our future topic of It's Not Easy visualization, by the way.
Yeah, and also by aesthetic and
and-
just a vibe set.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
just get the vibe
Absolutely.
set right. But anyways, back to comedy.
Comedy. Comedy. Ha ha ha.
The point that you mentioned about people quitting, right? Mm-hmm. People like us who start on something based off a hypothesis, we may have strategies, we may think they're airtight, we have our convictions based on that.
Yeah.
But with every passing day, until we become the proverbial overnight success, the years up until that point,
Yeah. Punchline, guys, by the way.
is people like us have to constantly deal with the push and pull of, keeping our convictions going and maintaining them to some level of potency versus that creeping doubt that comes
Allowing
in.
the creeping doubt to come in.
I mean, yeah, you can't, because you never know when you will make it. So with every passing day, it's highly likely that imposter syndrome will kick in and you will be like, are we even that good enough? Is this real? Like, are our plans really that good?
Right.
Are they solid? Like,
Right.
have we left gaps anywhere that we can't look at? And also, apart from the imposter syndrome, it is also outside of us, like, are we going to be lucky enough to be in that group or to be successful?
Yeah, when you look at it that way, right, Bogus, and it's like an absolutely fresh thought.
Of course.
Conviction might also be a game of patience,
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of truth is in that, but
No, there is truth in that.
it's like if you really want to experience the true conviction of your idea or anything that you set out to do, I think impatience is also one of the reasons why people fall off. Oh, I still don't see any result. I've been working on it for a year or two.
Yeah.
I don't see any result. I know the idea was great and all. Maybe not for me. Or maybe this is not the right time. And most of the people become superstitious, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is another big cause of why people fall out, saying that, oh, these are signs that this is not what I should be doing or stuff like that. So I think, realizing conviction is also a game of patience because it's like the bamboo tree. It waits. But once the conviction starts manifesting, right, the hypothesis, I don't think it gives you enough time to adjust to it.
Yeah. And it is a game of patience because how are you really convinced if you don't have some data points, like some source of validation?
Right.
You need to have something. And that something always takes time to build.
Yeah, you have to peel the layers off.
But yeah, in my mind, I always visualize that kind of like a battle or a struggle between conviction, someone's conviction, and their creeping sense of self-doubt. Over time, probably this wins over, conviction, and that's when they decide, okay, this is not for me, and I gotta quit.
Which is also the reason why you see very few successful people and many more mediocre people.
Yeah.
Because your convictions manifestation timeline is also dependent on the scale at which you're creating the hypothesis.
Yeah.
The bigger the scale, the longer the timeline.
Yeah.
Which means the more the patience you should have.
Yeah, and also the time that you are in.
Everything comes into that.
Everything has to be taken into account.
Yeah.
Like for today's society, your plan could be extremely potent. Like you could be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Which means you don't really have to be that patient.
Don't you call that lucky?
I guess you could say that, but it can be strategized as well. You could be someone who realizes what a time they are in, and they realizes exactly what things to tweak to.
You're talking about adaptability and stuff, which I'm not extremely convinced about.
Okay.
That might be relevant on a general scale, right? Like, for example, if you talk about talent, like singing or say sports, what is the timing that has to do with it? It is about opportunity. It is about identifying opportunity and applying your conviction to it. Like, but what you say might fit well. Say if somebody is trying to create an industry of machinery, for example, or media channel, for example, the kind of content they want to create, etc.
Right.
I think that is not generic in scale. What the whole timing aspect of it, it is more subjective to that specific, I don't know, industry, if you have to say that.
Yeah, I mean, basically there are examples, all kinds of examples of what you're saying.
But we cover them all at ThyGap. That's why we are
course.
saying, because we're a comedy podcast.
And
just in case somebody forgot.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Before we continue to digress into more comedic matters like this, bro.
Anecdotes.
Yeah.
Beyond this, Bogus, do you see any other reason why it's not easy to have conviction? And please try to make it
comedic.
Serious.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. Like, this is a comedy podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, we have to challenge ourselves once in a while, please.
I know.
Please.
The one other reason I can think of why conviction cannot be easy is in continuation with the example that we just covered about, people in our situation, where they have to struggle with balancing conviction with their sense of self-doubt and all that kind of stuff. So the one other reason what makes it not easy for people in that position, in that same position, is nowadays, unfortunately, in general, there seems to be a lot of unearned entitlement going around in general. And this kind of taints this topic that we're talking about as well.
Yeah, it taints.
It taints it.
Taints.
So, we'll stop being so serious.
I apologize. You know me. I'm a very serious person.
Yeah. The way it does that is, let's say there's someone who is embarking on a passion project of their own, and it took them some amount of conviction. It took them some amount of self-belief to get started with that. But over a period of time, there is that sense of self-doubt that is creeping in. And then there's people around this person, right? Unfortunately, there are people these days that are so quick to the draw when it comes to talking about haters, man. All these haters. I have so many haters. The same kind of people, it's a similar mentality, which is if they find that people around them are not buying into their passion project, are not buying into the concept, are not willing to support them, they have their doubts about their project. Like, we could think of it again in a ThyGap example. Like, we could be really convinced about ThyGap and the potential that it has. Which we are.
Why are you saying that it's a possibility? It is a reality.
For the listeners.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about also.
Yeah.
Like, everyone outside ThyGap probably will not relate, will have their doubts, because from what they can see is every week you're putting up an episode. Whoop-de-fucking-do. There are like millions of other podcasts out there.
For putting more episodes.
Who are putting more episodes out there. Yeah. There are people putting reels and getting like millions of views.
Correct.
what are you really going to do here?
Yeah.
So
Waiting for plastic surgery.
exactly. They're all fair questions.
Yeah.
But in a similar state, like someone else, if they see that people around them have doubts, they're not buying in so readily into their concept, immediately they tend to get flippant about it, and they tend
Name
to
call.
they tend to get entitled about it. Like,
Yeah.
you need to support me. Like, how can I do this without any support? Like, nobody is with me. Nobody is supporting my idea. Like, nobody is standing behind me. All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
This entitlement, I mean, the people, if anyone is falling into this trap, we need to understand that the world owes us absolutely fucking nothing. You have an idea, great. You think it's an amazing idea, fantastic. But until you prove it, you have nobody has an obligation, right? There's no obligation for others to come and support you just for the fuck of it. Like, if they believe it, fine. If they are convinced about it, fine. But for you to expect them to be convinced of your idea because you're convinced of it, that just...
It's like Sachin coming and saying, I'm the greatest batsman without even touching a ball.
Exactly.
Without even hitting a ball or touching a bat.
At 17.
At 17. No, even earlier, right? 14.
Like, I'm thinking about the time before he first played that test against Pakistan, right? Where he turned heads.
Yeah.
Imagine even before going to that match, he started talking like this.
Yeah. And I think
he may be true, he may be right, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There are people who have done more than that before him. And also, I think one of the biggest supporter of conviction or developing conviction is the devil's advocate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, the devil's advocate also, and that person might be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The devil's advocate also gives you the nudge of thinking into the right direction.
Right.
Or exposing your blind side. What I see today is they're killing the devil's advocate. I think it's no more don't kill the messenger.
Right.
It should be don't kill the devil's advocate. Whoever is not agreeing with you is doing you a favor. He's making you think harder.
Right.
He's making you go deeper. And that should be your validation. The day those people start approving the hypothesis that there is a fleeting possibility, that is when you know that you're going in the right direction.
Which is a great segue into the other reason why conviction is not easy. Because what good is your conviction if you're not willing to stand up for it?
Yeah.
What good is your conviction if you don't have the balls to allow it to be challenged?
Exactly.
And
don't get emotional, bogus. As long as you're...
No, I was getting comedic.
Thinking of a joke.
Trying to hold back laughter. Punchline after punchline, bro. It's so tough. How do we do this?
Day in, day out, man.
Yeah. It is not worthy of being called a conviction if you can't stand up to it being challenged. If you don't have to prove it, that this is your conviction and you're willing to stand behind it, then it's not a conviction at all.
Yeah.
Worthy of any salt.
Which also can be understood in the other way around. Like, look at all the successful people, and their biggest complaint is that they stop growing because they only start having yes men around them.
Yeah.
So they don't know, they don't have, the raw conviction they had early on in the decisions they take, because everybody seems to be agreeing on the first drop of hat.
They don't know what they have.
So, you can even look at it that way.
Yep.
I think we've given a lot of reasons why it's not easy.
Yeah. And basically what that tells us is if we cannot stand behind our convictions, then it's not a conviction worthy of, mention. If we don't have the guts to allow our convictions to be put to the test, for them to be challenged,
then is it even a conviction?
And if we don't have the guts, basically that means we don't have the courage. And this is where we go into why conviction is important.
Yeah. Let's go into that.
So basically...
Do we still have to explain, guys?
I mean, we don't.
Like, isn't it obvious why conviction is important?
Yeah, convince yourselves.
Yeah, bloody
the rest
nonsense.
Of this episode.
Want to be spoon-fed, you're entitled.
Brats.
No,
right? Was it socials?
Yeah. Please.
I mean, it goes to show, like, it's been a while since we recorded that episode, bro. Courage is not easy.
Yeah, I think everybody should re-listen to that.
And
including us, actually.
Yes. And in that episode itself, we had called out how we came to realize that courage is actually sitting at a very fundamental kind of like basement level of, like all the other virtues.
Yeah.
Like almost everything seems to require some amount of courage.
Right.
And same goes with conviction, because it takes guts to be clear about what we believe in today's times, for you to not be vague and to say, nope, this is what it is, black and white, etc. It really does take a lot of guts. And it could be even downright foolish in some scenarios, like corporate, environments. But it takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of courage to to come across a devil's advocate, like you said, who challenges your conviction, and then for you to be a little bit curious to find out whether let me test my own conviction. Let me hear him out.
Yeah.
And let me see if
it stands through that trial.
Yeah, and curiosity is not easy, of course, is also another episode we already did. Subscribe
and share.
So why else, bro, do you think, courage, yes, is something that feeds into conviction. That's something we've established.
And it's the other way around also. Conviction feeds into courage.
It is a feedback loop. Yes. Yeah. The stronger convictions we have, we get more confident.
And more confidence gives you more courage. And more courage will give you more authority in your thought and your speech. So again, is another episode where we spoke about Measure of Men, where we kind of deep dive into thought, word, and deed.
Yeah.
So conviction kind of fuels that whole framework, supported by other virtues. But that is why it is important to invest in conviction and actually think through to have your own authentic conviction. Because that exercise for me has always kind of opened my eyes, Bogus, about, okay, this is where I am kind of lacking, So that kind of really makes it, for me, that kind of is the core essence of why it is important to have your own convictions built by yourself, developed by yourself, and executed by yourself.
And conviction, it feeds into assertion. Like if we have strong convictions, it's only then that we can be assertive as individuals, right?
Yeah.
And assertion is a quality of strength.
And a chauvinistic husband.
Yeah. And we have...
or a liberal wife.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
This is soon going to become a relationship advice podcast.
Yeah, but we also did relations. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But why is being assertive so important? Don't worry, we're going to do assertion.
Yes,
it's not easy.
It's a future
episode. We'll get into more detail there.
Yeah.
But if we can't be assertive about something, then basically we can't have any hope in hell of getting our way through. When I say getting our way through, what I imply there is some friction there, and you have to get your way through that.
I think it's not friction. I think it's inertia.
Inertia, friction, resistance. Whatever is standing in your way, basically, if you have to get through it, you may start with diplomacy. You may start with being passive aggressive. You may start with beating around the bush.
You know the worst?
What?
You might start with denial.
Yeah.
Again, it's not easy kind of a subtopic, but a lot of people don't go towards developing a strong conviction because that takes a lot of energy to actually stick by to it.
Yeah.
So your life is much more easier when you don't have a conviction about things in general.
Because then you won't have to pay any price.
You don't have to pay any price. You don't have to have the fear of failure. You don't have to you don't have to disrespect others.
Yeah.
Which is again another big taboo, right? Like, he's so arrogant, he's so, disrespectful because he thinks he knows everything.
Yeah. And uncomfortable conversation. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's again another reason. If you really want to stand out, then you rather have your own set of convictions, right or wrong. Time will tell that. But it's important to make yourself into a, authentic individual.
Yeah, and like you said, like it could start from denial, it could start from many other things. Like you could try to be diplomatic, you could try to be polite, you could try to be, you could try to beat around the bush, but there will come a point where you will have to put your foot down.
Yeah.
And you have to be assertive. And what we will usually find is that if we were instead assertive right from the get-go, we need to understand that a lot of people, the herd, unfortunately, it's true, there is a herd. A lot of people will actually give way because it is the same kind of condition we're talking about. The minute they encounter that, the initial sense of
flexibility.
No, actually, the opposite. Like when a lot of people see you being assertive, right? Chances are very high that they will just give way. because they also don't want that uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
They don't want that awkward.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are more likely to actually give way for you. So even if you are not naturally assertive, in some situations, if you're clever about it, human condition, if you understand how humans work, majority of them will just let you pass and let you have your way. It is only a few who might challenge you.
Who themselves are extremely authentic in nature.
And for those people, you have to be prepared, and that there's no other.
Yeah. And again, the higher you go, the more quality you meet. So
Yep.
it is also inevitable.
Absolutely.
You will meet Thanos.
Absolutely. So why is conviction important? Conviction is important because it leads you to stand up for yourself, and it leads us to put our foot in the ground and say, this is what our values are.
Yeah.
This is what our principles are. Some of the things I'm willing to tolerate, but when it comes to these core things, they're non-negotiable.
And also, most importantly, conviction will lead you to ThyGap podcast episode.
Yep.
And that's the best place you can be.
Yep. And a strong sense of conviction will lead you to listen to all of the episodes
Yeah.
and actually, find your own connections between the topics that probably we haven't even, explicitly said it ourselves,
Yeah.
but that you found the connections yourselves, and write to us, let us know so we can make another episode about that. Thank you, subscribe.
Under the breath.
Yeah. That was the serious stuff.
Yes. So that's about conviction and why it's important, and most importantly, why it's not easy. And Bogus, I think we are very convinced that this was a convincing episode with a lot of conviction infused in it.
Absolutely.
And with that, like we always say, Bogus, ThyGap podcast, subscribe
And share.
with conviction.